No way, Jose.
The following footage proves beyond any doubt that the tanks intentionally set the house on fire. It proves that the Branch Davidians were murdered. You can see that this tank has a gas jet on the front that shoots fire. You can also see the fire quite plainly. The tank goes into the house twice, and each time as it backs out, the fire at the gas jets is plainly visible.
We must all do more to recognize and look for the early warning signals that deeply troubled young people send.
Good morning, good morning. You're watching the No Way Jose podcast, and this is the Morning Dump. Pleasure to be with you guys today. I have some more stuff on the CEO assassination for you guys, so that should be some interesting stuff, wild stuff going on in New York. Good morning to everyone. Let me know if you guys can hear me, if I'm sounding good, and if I'm looking good, all that. It is good to be with you guys again today. We have quite a bit to go through. I have, as I mentioned, the UHC CEO assassination, some Trump assassination task force stuff. We may or may not get into whether Mike Benz is or is not a Fed, so that should be interesting. Let's get started into some. Let's start out with the Trump assassination task force stuff. We'll start with an old Ken Silva thing. We got. He says Mike Kelly opens by saying, this is from Ken Silva, as I just said, at JD_cashless. It says Mike Kelly opens by saying how the local police were wrongly smeared for the failures at Butler. We'll probably start a thread with random observations here. So he's quote tweeting the Trump assassination task force like opening remarks thingamajig. So let's go through what can be revealed through that. He will kind of give us a skinny on what really is, I guess, anything interesting in the most recent one. He says Rowe said he's ordering the Secret Service's Office of Investigations to fold within its Office of Field Operations. So it basically looks like the Secret Service is going to do less criminal investigations and more protective work. Yeah, that would make sense. I don't know. I mean, aside from like a quality assurance type thing, they really shouldn't be. I mean, there's other agencies. I mean, obviously I think all these agencies would go away, but it doesn't really make sense as it currently stands, in my opinion. It says Representative Kelly also admitted that lawmakers didn't work on the task force in the weeks leading up to Election Day. Instead, the 30 bipartisan staffers did most of the work, he said. Surprise, surprise. Who would have guessed? Rowe said told Clay Higgins he's requiring Secret Service snipers to be co-located with local snipers moving forward, which I'd say that's probably a positive. Put them together makes it harder for them to have any fuckery. At the very least, they got to get two agencies on board if they're trying to pull off any shenanigans. Rowe said he created an aviation unit in the Secret Service to handle drone operations. I mean, do you really need a whole unit? I don't know. Whatever. And he's having his agencies all use blue force trackers to track them via GPS. Representative Crow noted that he often used these in the Army. Okay, I mean, that's not bad, too. That would have cleared up a lot of confusion and stuff if these people were being tracked via GPS. It would have made things a lot easier for investigation after the fact. Rowe confirmed that the robot dogs recently seen patrolling Mar-a-Lago are Secret Service assets. Story about this here, so you can go check out that story. But essentially, I guess we're getting those, was it the Boston Dynamics or whatever? The robot dogs, looks like they've found a use for them now, and that is protecting VIPs. So that's interesting. This is the world we live in now. We have robot dogs protecting our politicians. All right. Deal with it. That's what we got. Rowe says he's on pace to hire 650 new special agents and 350 uniform officers with expanded budget. I don't like that, but oh well. Honestly, I really feel like if you ask me, they should just disband, and if anything, maybe give individuals that need it some sort of stipend or something to be able to hire their own private security. Because but yeah. All right. Representative Rowe told Representative Dean he could find no written comms where AGR building was discussed leading up to July 13th. He called that lack of written record a glaring error. And then Laurel Lee, task force never received troves of info from DOJ, including digital analysis of electronic devices of Crooks and Routh, 302s of the family interviews, any sort of overall financial analysis of Crooks and Routh. So the DOJ, all right, so task force never received basically anything from the DOJ on Crooks or Routh, which is unsurprising. This has been a through line. Pretty much anytime I've brought Ken on, I've had him on a couple times to talk about this, and I believe both times they asked the question kind of like, what's the deal with information moving between agencies, and it seems pretty much most agencies are pretty damn tight-lipped. All right, let's check in with the chat. That's all there is to that one. Oh, Nephilim Murder Crew, ready to stream. Cool. Looks good, sounds good. Good morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Redbeard. All right, what do we have next? What should we get into? I guess we can go ahead and just get right into the whole CEO thing. Let's start with this story. This isn't directly it, but I thought it was kind of interesting. Just in, Anthem backtracks decision to cap anesthesiology coverage in Connecticut. Now, I'd heard rumors. I don't know if it's true or not. I think my wife mentioned something to me about this, about how this may. I think they said UHC is either had or is pursuing this as well, where they were looking into essentially not covering anesthesiology past a certain point. Like essentially if you went into surgery and let's say the doctor said it was going to be an hour of surgery and then something goes off the rails and it becomes an hour and a half or 2 hours. So theoretically, I'm talking my ass here a little bit, but the idea being is that your insurance, UHC in this, in the circumstance, obviously Anthem decided not to, would decide to not, let's say after an hour and 15, they say, oh, well, that's all the fucking anesthesiology you get. And then after that fact, now you got to pay out of pocket, which I don't know if you've ever met anyone who works in anesthesiology. Those motherfuckers make bank. So the idea that you're going to be able to pay for that, I mean, I don't know, that's a lot of fucking money. Pretty honestly kind of a gross decision. So that's it seems that the Anthem decided not to. I'm not sure what the deal is with UHC, but it is kind of funny. You look in the comments, and it's like obviously everyone's saying violence. I was told violence is not the answer. So obviously everyone's alluding to that. Hey, they got scared. They don't want this to happen to them. I will say I'm getting a little bit. And I don't know. It just comes off as cringe, really. I mean, I get it. There's some funny jokes to be had there's some funny jokes to be had with all the lefty parapolitics types that are like seeing this guy like they're Batman. And the chances that he is are slim to none. So like, I mean, I get it in a sense, like, because I understand like somewhat their worldview. So I get where they're coming from. Where they're like, oh, this is class warfare. He's killing the capitalists, whatever. But it's frankly, like, let's be real. Like, we'll get into this in a second. I'm gonna read another article, kind of like newer information that came through yesterday, like a couple hours after our stream. But it's the idea that this guy is some John Q type, or he's some bleeding heart, or he's some vigilante. He's their Batman. I think it's slim to none. And if anything, they should be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess once again, it's hard to parse what's just haha funny. And then what's them being like serious, but it just seems like they're getting kind of caught up in the fantasy that this guy is something that he's not. Especially because they found we're about to get into some of the supposed photos of him, and no homo, he's a good-looking dude. So like everyone out there is like kind of wood, type deal. So like, I mean, So I can kind of get where they're coming from. Funny. So I've laughed a little bit at some of the lefty parapolitics types that are kind of getting excited about this, like LOL, kind of like, oh, look what he did. Oh, how great, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm not necessarily sure if I'm completely on board with that. I mean, you guys know who's followed me long enough. I'm, followed my, thoughts on theory. I'm like an agorist type, so like I don't have much love for corporatism, because so like in a sense, like corporate entities are basically in bed with the government, and it's a gray area, essentially, is a way to look at it. So it's not as black and white. So this is why I'm kind of like in a weird spot where I'm like, I don't necessarily feel good about it. I mean, maybe if I knew more details about the ins and outs of this guy's life and what he does and what he's done, then maybe I'd feel, but even then, at the very least, I do feel bad for his family. Like, I mean, he may be a piece of shit, but at the very least, I feel bad for his family. But yeah, so I kind of get where they're coming from. I don't necessarily feel too awful for the guy. I do feel bad for his family. Does come off a little cringe, all the hero worship that we're getting, especially because, let's be real, I'm getting very strong vibes that there is something more going on here. And if anything, people should be paying attention and looking for signs of what is the bigger picture here. What is it? I don't know. I have no idea. But let's bring up, let me see, I gotta find this. This is what I'm talking about right here. Grinning suspect who killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, police seen in new release pics. The wording of that is weird. In CEO Brian Thompson, police seen in new, okay, I don't know. Okay, that wording's awful. But anyways, this is supposedly the suspect. Now we have here, and it says right here on the bottom, there's a community note. This is a person of interest, according to the NYPD, and has not been confirmed to be the assassin, which we're about to read this article, and I have a feeling maybe it's been changed since I read it last, because I skimmed it yesterday. But I could have swore that it was the NYPD. They were essentially, this was framed, and it was almost said in like a certainty type way. So this is what really threw me off. But all right, we're going to read this now, though, so... we'll go through it right now together, and we'll see how certain their wording is now, or if they've changed it. Because I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they applied a little journalistic integrity and came back and changed it up a little bit to make it sound less certain that this was the guy. Because I could have swore when I saw this yesterday, it was almost like they were wording it like with a certainty. And I didn't finish it all, just kind of skimmed it real quick. But all right, let's go through it. Unmasked suspect caught grinning, flirting with hostile receptionist just days before United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's NYC execution. Sources. So this is days before. Okay. So this is a photo of him days before, is what they're saying. So I guess a lot of people are pointing out that the photos don't match up, like the jacket, God, all these fucking ads. Jesus Christ. All right. A chilling photo shows, but all right, real quick, before I got distracted by the ads, I was commenting on the fact that this is saying it was days before. So everyone's been pointing out that, like, hey, this doesn't look like the same guy. Like, you look at the jackets, they're different. Or like, okay, well, it's been days, so theoretically. So, okay, there we go. People pointing out the backpack's different. I mean, I guess a smart person would probably change out all their, identifiable, garments, likely, and probably get rid of them, and probably only wear them one time. But I don't know. I'm talking on my ass here. All right, a chilling photo shows a suspected gunman grinning wildly while supposedly flirting with a hostile clerk days before he calmly executed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside a Midtown hotel Wednesday. The photo, the first to show the alleged masked assassin's full face, was released by the NYPD Thursday as a desperate manhunt for the cold-blooded killer led authorities to an Upper West Side youth hostel where they believe he stayed before the shocking killing. The gunman, who checked into the high New York City hostel with a fake New Jersey ID, only pulled down his mask because he was flirting with the receptionist she asked to see his face, law enforcement sources told the Post. NYPD officers and FBI agents searched the hostel on Amsterdam Avenue after video captured the suspect in the area around 5 a.m. Wednesday. About an hour before he's believed to have fired repeatedly at Thompson, 50, as the CEO walked up to the 6th Avenue luxury hotel, sources said. God damn it. The search and potential link to the slaying rattled residents of the high New York City hostel, such as Ignacio Heck, a 31-year-old software engineer from Chile, who didn't know he may have crossed paths with a killer until he spoke with the Post Thursday. "Oh, damn," he said. "Of course I'm scared, but at least the police were here. It's a safe place, and I'm leaving tomorrow." The suspect checked into the hostel on November 30 using the fake ID, sources told the Post. The hostel's surveillance images of him were taken around that time, sources said. The images show the suspect flash a smile with a black mask similar to the face covering worn by the shooter outside the Hilton Hotel, hanging from his chin. Well, I mean, like, I don't think that black mask is anything unique. So, because I'm still looking here for where they're getting off saying this is the guy. He also wore the same dark hoodie and gray backpack as the shooter. The fuck he did. Okay, well there we go. This is what I was getting at earlier, where I was saying, like, I noticed as I was reading at the beginning, it said this was days before, and everyone pointed out, which we'll get into, that these don't match up. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's some sort of weird lighting thing or something, but like, you'll see, look at this backpack strap here, black. It's light in the photo. We'll come back to this though. He also wore the same dark hoodie and gray backpack as the shooter. I mean, gray. I don't see how that's all right. Whatever. Who was captured in disturbing surveillance video, calmly firing gunshot after gunshot at Thompson. Like, I don't know if I'm missing something. Is there something that happens to security cameras where it augments the color to an extreme degree? Because I mean, this is black. That's clearly black. I mean, maybe a very, very, very dark gray. But we will see in a second, it's like a very light gray, or even almost like I don't know. So I don't know. Whatever. We'll come back to that. Or you can actually see here. You can see here. They literally put them next to each other. You can see in this photo right here, light backpack. I mean, this is maybe like a very, very light gray, a dark sweat thing. Okay, like maybe the jacket could be similar. Like you look at the hoodie. The hoodie's kind of similar, but that backpack, that's a different backpack. Like I don't know. I don't know how that could look this different in these two different photos. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a surveillance camera analyst, but I don't know what could possibly happen between these two that would change it. I mean, obviously I know the lighting's different and everything, but it still doesn't seem like that would be enough to account for such a big difference between the colors. But anyways, a search of the hostel room rented by the suspect had yielded nothing of note as of Thursday afternoon, source said. So, all right, the hostel room search provide nothing. Okay, so once again, I'm still confused how they jumped to this is the guy. Cops were inside the hostel around 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, said John Nielsen, a tourist from Denmark. He believes the suspect stayed in a shared room with 4 to 6 other people, and that he talked to that he talked to one of the killer's roommates. What is this? This is some what do we know? Whatever, fuck that. They tried to get into the room, but they couldn't because the police said no, he said. Some kind of investigation, so they were pretty shocked because they shared a room with that person who could be pretty bad. Danielle Brumfitt Norris, vice president of Hosteling International USA, which runs the hostel, declined to comment. We are fully cooperating with the NYPD, and as this is an active investigation, cannot comment at this time. The growing trove of images came as investigators tracked down other leads in their manhunt, notably the purchase of a rare spy gun in Connecticut that appears similar to the silence-equipped pistol used by the shooter. Let's see. Is that it? I think that might be it. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really... You'd think they'd give it a more concise ending, so I knew it was over. But yeah, no, that's that. They give us literally nothing showing why they think this, other than kind of looking alike. But you got to keep in mind, this is fucking New York City. There's so many people. And the idea that this is just based off of because mask, jacket, and backpack, and a backpack that doesn't even seem to actually match up. And I don't know, I shared something yesterday. I put because we talked yesterday, and you guys know that God, what am I trying to say? We talked yesterday about the whole city bike lead and how that went shitty, like quick as fuck. What the fuck? I'm sorry, I was reading an article, reading a thing up there. But the city bike thing was bad too. It was bad info, and I believe, I mean, I don't know the original reporting. So if someone out there does know the original reporting, then I mean maybe there's something to that. But I could have swore, I mean, everyone was claiming it was the NYPD that was saying it was a city bike. So we have I mean, obviously, don't quote me. It seems like perhaps the NYPD saying initially off the bat the city bike, when it seems pretty clear off the bat it was in the city bike. I mean, I saw the photo that one of my buddies shared that I shared yesterday that had the photo of it, and there was other stuff. I guess later they then said nope, that wasn't the case. So there's been 2 red herrings so far, is what it seems like. The second one is like the second red herring. That it's like it just almost feels like this is intentional. And as I said, I don't know if maybe that article got changed later, because that is sometimes apt to happen where a journalist will write something and then later they'll change it. But I could have swore I remember yesterday I skimmed the first few paragraphs, and the way it was worded, it sounded with certainty that almost by the police they're saying, hey, this is our guy kind of deal. And once again, I very, very, very much doubt this. So this feels like, and this is kind of comes back to my whole point with like, hey, lefty parapolitics people, chill out. This feels like some sort of almost like it's being allowed, and like almost like this guy's being covered, because the more this goes on and the more people get distracted, the more he just disappears into the ether and he's gone. Because I mean I have a feeling this guy's not going to get caught. Honestly, like I don't think this guy's ever going to get caught. It doesn't feel like there's a will for him to be caught, to be honest. But I mean, obviously this is completely anecdotal. This is sorry, I accidentally hit the thing and it knocked my fucking thingamajig out and I had to reset my thing. But yeah, I don't think we're going to catch him. It doesn't feel like there's a will. Obviously, I know there's like almost like a fog of war anytime you have war or something big like this, any sort of like big event. There's going to be conflicting information, but it just feels, I mean, this is just a feeling. This is intuition. I might be wrong. It's completely, so we'll see. But we'll see where this goes. I could be completely wrong. This could be class warfare like the lefties seem to want it to be, but we will find out. Here's what I'm referring to too. Here's Tim Pool. He shared this. This is 2 different photos of these people. They're supposedly the same guy. I mean, even if you just look at facial analysis, it doesn't really, to me. I mean, there's nothing really here that sticks out as being like the same person to me. I mean, I guess these things do look similar, I guess, but they're, I don't know, like once again, the backpack's light. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, the cops have given us nothing insofar as like why, as far as I know, why we should believe that this is the case. Other than the guy, I guess the only thing you could say is the guy used a fake ID, which like, okay, that doesn't mean anything really. I mean, he could have his own story that has nothing to do with that. But all right, let me check in with the chat, see what you guys have to say. Jeez, man, there's a lot of these now. All right, good morning. Everyone's saying good morning. No way, Hose B. Arcane with the banger. Repeal the ACA. Yeah, for sure. Without the Affordable Care Act and the March to Socialized Medicine, this wouldn't be happening. I completely disagree. The funny thing is the lefty parapolitics types, they want more of this in a certain sense. They just think magic falls from or that money falls from the sky and that everyone should get it. So, dudes a faggot, hits aren't justice. I don't know. It depends. 100% depends. This is why I said it's a gray area. There are definitely some black areas. And this is the differences in kind of my belief system and their belief system. There are definitely people out there that while I wouldn't advocate for you doing so because I find it to be not pragmatic and it does not lead towards the results that you would like to see, but it may be justified morally. Suspect looks like Donnie Darko from that news reporting movie. Yeah. Everyone's talking about how bad pedos they are. Yes, I agree. Which we will get into that a bit if you guys stick around. I see obviously there's a raid here, so there's some newer people popping in. I will say definitely if you want to stick around, we're going to be the last probably 30 minutes or so. We'll be continuing a coverage of like a long form article that I've been reading. I believe we're on part 5 now. Where I'm reading a long-form article of the Dutroux affair, which is a crazy happening over in Belgium, where all the it seemed like a lot of the higher ups in the government were involved in a trafficking operation of some sort with awful SRA type stuff going on. So check that out. I mean, or stick around, or you can even go back to the previous morning dumps. This is what I've been doing on the morning dump ones in the last 30 minutes for a while. I've been going through that long form article. So if you want to work through that, you can kind of learn about that case as well. Yep. Everyone's talking about blood eagles. All right. Yeah. All right. Anything worthwhile? Have you looked into the United Health insider trading lawsuit? I read a little bit about it yesterday, but I didn't get in the weeds. It sounds like the insider trading. Maybe I don't remember an insider trading one. I may be wrong though. I don't know. I don't know the details of what fucky he's done. I mean, maybe more of that will come out. I haven't looked into that. If you have something worthwhile, feel free to drop in the thing. I can bring up a link. I believe you're on YouTube. I think you can just put a link in the thing and it should show up for me if there's something worthwhile. But yeah, someone says rare spy gun. It's a gun from Assassins. Yep. Tim Pool can tell okay. Our chat is full of retards. Yeah, the chat is full of retards. All right, are you guys ready to get into? We're gonna do some Fed jacketing today. I actually kind of, I don't know, I almost feel bad about this one because this is I don't know much about this guy really, hardly at all. But I've gotten this is an individual that I've had a lot of people that I respect, or not a lot, a few people that I respect that have said they think this guy is some sort of Fed or something, which we're going to kind of get to analyze that now. Now I've had this happen multiple times throughout my tenure, I guess, is where I've had people go, hey, so-and-so's a Fed, this guy's a Fed. And you're like, okay, I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And it's also if they are, what the fuck do you want me to do with this information? Really, generally the kind of how I act is everyone's a fucking Fed. I mean, it's just kind of obviously I don't go around saying they're all, but just kind of I behave somewhat in that way. Because it's even if this guy is a Fed, let's say this guy is a Fed and he's running some sort of op and he's saying all the things that I want people to hear. It's okay, I get it. Yes, there's an angle where you're building up influence so that one day you can take a right turn and take these people down the wrong path or distract them from one thing or another. And obviously that's bad, but I guess as long as you keep your head on a swivel, it kind of is what it is. It's also this unprovable thing a lot of times. Very rarely do we ever get this guy is for sure a Fed. But this is this is one I've kind of always wanted to look into a little bit myself anyways. But it's just kind of it feels like some gay women stuff. You're it just feels it feels like gossip, and I don't really like it. It feels gay. This is why I haven't really done it my own time. But this does feel like something you guys would like. And there's been a few people since Mike Benz. Just to back up a little bit, he just went on Rogan recently. To be honest, I don't know really hardly shit about this guy. I don't even know if he has a podcast or what he does. I know he's been on some of my friends' shows. I've seen him around. I don't think I've ever really seen him aside from clips here and there. He says stuff that I'm okay, yeah. I mean, kind of Intel community bad. Or okay, cool. And he said some stuff that's fairly interesting. I've never seen anything that really compelled me to watch him regularly or find him all that, interesting or whatever, but whatever, he seems to get on big shows and says a lot of stuff that I tend to agree with somewhat, and hey, it's getting out there, so that's cool, I guess. But I mean, I have heard this rumor a lot, and I've wanted to look into it. Oh crap, I have the wrong tab up. I've always wanted to look into it a little bit, and just kind of feels gay to do it my own time. But you guys, it seems like something you guys might like. What the fuck? Sorry, I thought I had the wrong tab up. I have the right tab up. But it seems like something you guys might like, and it seems like content, so whatever. We'll go through it together. I don't have to be gay on my own time. I can be gay with you guys, and we can do this gay little gossip of who's a Fed, is he a Fed? But this is what we're going to go through, and I'm going to try to be devil's advocate, because I do kind of I don't know, there's always a chance, I don't know what all these people have on him, supposedly, what makes them think he's a Fed. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to play a little bit devil's advocate here, because I don't know. You never know. But all right, let's start here. We have Sam Parker Gage, or Lucas Gage, I guess, that he started this thread. He said, Mike Benz, renowned expert on internet censorship, regularly names the FBI, CIA, various NGOs, etc., but over several hours, and Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan never named the ADL, the Mossad, or Unit 8200. Probably just a simple oversight, right? By the way, this Sam Parker Lucas Cage guy, I don't know much about him. I mean, I guess maybe you could say he's like kind of sort of alt-rightish / corporate-ish / dissident rightish. I don't know, just kind of the vibe I've gotten from things I've seen from him in the past. I don't know. He's okay, I guess. Just so you guys know where he's coming from. But here we go. Let me see. I guess here's a video. How long is this?
Ministry of Truth or whatever it is. Is that what it's called? Ministry of Truth?
Well,
they tried to do that for a while. That was
I will say, not to be mean, but just on physiognomy alone, I mean, it feels like a Fed. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean,
I think so. Just as a background, please tell people what you do and what positions you held.
yeah, see what I mean? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm sorry. I feel bad. There are balding people. It is what it is. But just something about it. I don't know. It just looks like a Fed. It just looks like he works a desk job in the Hoover building. I don't know. But all right, let's go.
I do all things internet censorship. That's really my mission in life, my North Star. I started off as a corporate lawyer and then worked for the Trump White House. I was a speechwriter. I sort of advised on technology issues, and then I ran the cyber division for the State Department, basically the big tech portfolio that interfaces between sort of big government, international diplomacy issues on technology, and then the sort of private sector U.S. national champions in the tech space like Google and Facebook. So I was the guy that Google lobbyists would call when they wanted favors from big government.
All right. I mean, okay. Here's a tweet from him. Says, say the anti-Semitism thing and get blocked. I answered that question a million times. I don't know. This is out of context. I don't know specifically what he's referring to here. He says, I already answered the question a million times. Spoiler, I'm extremely Jewish. The only reason you're not blocked already is I remember you as an early supporter. Using my charity now, so straighten up or get the fuck out. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea the context of that. So, all right, 2. For years, during the late 2010s, Mike Benz infiltrated the alt-right movement pretending to be a white nationalist named Frame Games. He even fooled prominent Gentile alt-right influencers at the time. This is why we can't trust Jews in our movement, even when they seem to be on our side. See, this is what I mean. Like, this is kind of where me and him part a little bit. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I have my, I definitely, in the same sense of like, especially like 5 to 10 years ago, I feel like in a lot of ways the black community is probably straightened up, but like, you may dislike how within the black community there was like this victim consciousness, and there definitely are negative things to be said when you speak of them as a collective. But as individuals, there are plenty. I mean, like my best friend in the military was a black dude. I have no problem. And the same thing with Jews. Like, I mean, I will say as a collective, I mean, if we are to evaluate this group as a collective, fucking annoying. Let's be real. Like, and there are plenty of issues to be had. Now, obviously, it's hard to put them in a collective because there's so many different types. There's non-religious. There's Hasidic. There's Lubavitch. There's so many different fucking types. So it is kind of hard to put them. And then obviously, now are you talking about Israeli Jews? Are you talking about American Jews? But generally speaking, I mean, people kind of know what we're getting at. The idea that some of those can be they can wield their identity as a cudgel essentially, and it's kind of like people like us like to take that power away and go, no, I don't give a fuck. Like I just don't care. Like, and like don't get me wrong. Like I mean, I guess if the only thing I knew about somebody, like a blank slate, nothing, didn't know what they look like, that's the only thing I knew is their identity. Sure, yeah, it might give me a little bit of a bias, but like aside from that, like no. I mean, because I understand statistics. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, this is something Sowell talked about, where it was kind of like, hey, if the only thing you knew about somebody was that they were black, and that was the only thing you knew, but you understood statistics, it's like you would make certain assumptions. It's just how we operate through life. Like, this is how you get through. It is what it is. Just in the same way when you see a homeless person, you make certain assumptions by them and act a certain way around them. Although, who knows? Maybe it was the coolest fucking homeless dude you've ever met in your life. You don't fucking know. But the only thing you know about that guy is maybe just general appearance and the fact that he's homeless. But all right, let's read some of these things right here. He clipped a couple things. Clipped an NBC News saying Michael Benz, a conservative crusader against online censorship, appears to have a secret history as an alt-right persona. Frame Game, the pseudonym of an alt-right internet personality, hid his face while pushing racist conspiracy theories. Inadvertent slips reveal details about his identity. A review of Frame Game posts and appearances from 2017 to 2018 ran the gamut of alt-right causes, from rants against social justice movements, the media and Disney films, to praise for Trump and odes to cryptocurrency. I mean, okay, whatever, it doesn't sound bad. In a blog post from 2017, Frame Game described himself as a Jew who is deeply sympathetic to the alt-right's accurate depiction of the double-edged nature of Jewish influence on Europe and America. See, I mean, like, that's kind of what I was getting at. I don't think that seems fair. So far, seems fair. I mean, if that is his belief, that seems like a fair belief to have. A former self-described libertarian, Frame Game credited alt-right provocateur Milo Yiannopoulos as putting the puzzle together and opening his eyes. 3. Once outed as a Jewish infiltrator and agent provocateur, Benz immediately appealed to his Jewish identity and the shield of the Holocaust to defend himself, and then attacked the journalist, exposed him as unethical. Okay, so... All right, so there you go. That's kind of the irony there, is that was kind of what the issue he was pointing out. But let's see. All right, so let's see. He used projection to 2, attack as the aggressor, while 3, using the shield of victimhood, by 4, claiming the mantle of the Holocaust. Woo! Not breaking any stereotypes here, but Benz is a good Jew, right? First, let me state something. This is a tweet of his for those listening. First, let me state something for the record. I'm a Jew, a proud Jew. I'm the descendant of Holocaust survivors who fled Poland. I was bar mitzvahed, and not just bar mitzvahed. I did the additional 4 years of Hebrew school to get confirmed, meaning I went to Hebrew school until I was 17 years old. My Hebrew name is Moshe, and my rabbi would reiterate to me that means messenger. I'm telling you this because one of the most notoriously unethical hit piece journalists in the entire country, Brandy Zadrovsny, that's a hard word, okay, who is famous for constantly getting her stories wrong, just tried to write a hit piece on me. This is a little 180-degree opposite of what she wrote and what she thinks she found. Okay, I don't know. This is, I mean, whatever. I don't know. I don't really think it's that bad. I mean, if someone did write a hit piece on him, and I mean, I don't know if he was hiding that he was Jewish before this, if that was the implication, but like, if he was a Jewish guy and he was kind of hanging out in, like, I guess, quote unquote, alt-right circles, I mean, and then someone wrote a hit piece on him as if he was some crazy anti-Semite, it'd be kind of like, and his concern is just that he's pointing out that, like, hey, people, essentially Jewish people have weaponized their identity, that I don't think, I mean, pointing out that this is my identity when someone tries to point out, oh, look at a crazy anti-Semite, I don't really see the issue here, to be honest. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. I mean, I will say it's a little bit cringe. I mean, so far as like my mentality in responding to things like this, but I mean, different strokes for different folks. I mean, I feel like once you're like you're like defending yourself like this, it is kind of gay. But I mean, whatever. It's just I can't really hold it against him. Like if someone says I'm anti-white, and like it's like, dude, I'm literally fucking white. Like I don't know. Like I have white kids. I have a white wife. Like, I mean, I feel like it's a fair defense. So I don't know. So that's what I'm seeing here. So I don't know if something's missing here. I mean, yeah, he's kind of putting his Jew card on the table super hard, but not in like I don't know. I don't see this in any sort of like untoward way. It just seems like, hey, someone wrote a hit piece on me. At least this is what I'm collecting. And like I'm assuming the implication is that hit piece on them being some hateful anti-Semite or something, and he's saying, dude, I'm literally a fucking Jew, and he's like, he's basically like, I'm Jewy as fuck, dog. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here. Just a simple fact of bringing up your identity or like as a defense in any way, I don't think that in any way that necessarily discredits you off the bat. I mean, I don't know. But there might be more. We'll see. Just so far, I'm not really too incredibly impressed. I will say I don't know. Anyways, Benz admitted his purpose for infiltrating the Gentile space wasn't because Gentiles were right in their assessments and justifying their anger. No, it's because he wanted to de-radicalize them. In other words, he wanted to get people to stop blaming Jews for things Jews do. He wanted to reduce anti-Semitism. He was looking out for Jews, not Gentiles. And he declared, I am extremely proud of using this subterfuge and deception. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe, let's see what he says. Really, he clipped a couple things here. I don't know what this is from, maybe some sort of article. So, all right. The account in question was a project by Jews to get people who hated Jews to stop hating Jews. It was a de-radicalization project, and it produced de-radicalization material. It made contact with groups in the early primordial soup of the MAGA movement in 2016 and sought to move people from a place of hate and division closer to a place of love and unity. I mean, I don't know. So far, I'm not seeing anything. I guess it depends on if he was doing this in like a subterfuge type way. But I mean, I don't know. Is that really that bad if he's just trying to correct the record on the alt-right, quote unquote, whatever you want to call that, view on Jews? If he is of the belief that they're taking some sort of hate all of them type view, and he's just trying to show them like, hey, like, no, I get where you're coming from. You know, a lot of these people are, perpetrating victim mentality, weaponizing their identity. Like, I don't like that. And it's like, not all of us are like that. Like, I don't know. I don't see that as necessarily bad, but I don't know. Let's keep it moving. And it was successful. The biggest fans of this count, which was deleted around 6 years ago, and to which I only contributed in a very limited manner, were fellow Jews who saw how effective it was at building a bridge and winning over hearts of people who held anti-Semitic beliefs, and non-Jews who would write in to say, I'm so glad I found this account. I used to have a lot of hate and heaviness in my heart towards Jewish people, but since I discovered you, I don't feel that anymore. The biggest antagonists of the account were people complaining their followers were becoming less radical and less willing to blame their problems on Jews. I mean, I don't know. Let me be clear. I'm extremely proud of this. In another life, this thing I was briefly a part of in 2016 and 2017 would be getting National Science Foundation funds for combating anti-Semitism. Now that's weird. The funds thing. Like, what the fuck? How are you getting funds for that? All right, that's odd. Now this sounds like a fucking op all of a sudden. I will give you that, Sam Parker. This feels weird all of a sudden. But I don't know. I mean, okay. I mean, it's kind of hard to defend that one. That seems weird. How are you getting National Science Foundation funds for being some sort of influencer in the alt-right? That is fucking very glowy. Don't know what to say. And this was achieved through dialogue and engagement instead of shunning and censorship. You can disagree with the methods, but you can't argue the results. And I absolutely will not be lectured by Brandy Zadrovsny on what techniques are or aren't effective at moving people from a place of hate and division towards a place closer to love and unity on the issue of anti-Semitism. By the way, I do want to put it out here, not that I really think he's ever going to see this or anything, but on the off chance he does, I'm completely open to having Mike Benz on the show. So if he does want to come on and address any of this, fine, whatever, I don't care. I mean, hell, even if he wants to come on and someone else wants to come on to kind of argue with him, I'm fine with it. I'm just, I don't know. Because, I mean, I know there might be details I'm missing that he can straighten out and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense, So 5, in prioritizing the negative blowback onto Jews instead of what Jews are doing that's inherently wrong. Man, this episode's going to get nuked just for saying that so much. Benz was really just following a long pattern of Jewish behavior and thinking they have a tendency to not condemn things because they are wrong. Rather, they condemn them because they might adversely affect Jews. Here we see Jews condemning fellow Jews' support of anti-Whiteism, mass immigration to white countries, Jewish attitudes on Jeffrey Epstein, and even Benjamin Netanyahu's savagery of Gaza, not because those things are inherently wrong, bad, or evil, but because they might adversely affect Jews. I mean, I don't know. Whereas Christians judge right and wrong using an objective measuring stick of morality based on Scripture and in relationship to God and absolute truth, Jews tend to judge right and wrong using the measuring stick of how will this affect Jews. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I mean, it's just a matter of, okay, we're what's the word I'm looking for? This is consequentialism. Okay, all right, you're seeing some group of Jews that are operating in consequentialism, and they're seeing that via consequentialism that, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't support the fucking the in mass murder of innocents in Gaza. I mean, if you have to come through it from the consequentialist view, who am I to fucking be upset about that? Like, who gives a shit? Yeah, you're right. That does make you look really fucking bad, and you should probably not do that. Okay. I mean, I'm supposed to be upset that they don't come from this from an objective morality standpoint. I mean, okay. I mean, I don't know, whatever. I mean, it's kind of tomato to me. Like, I don't know. I don't know why this is. I don't know if this is supposed to be like his old account or something. It says, I can tell you as a Jew myself, it's anti-white shit like this from Jews that creates hatred towards us from white people. Once they notice a pattern, which most of them are not, you need to stop. You're going to get hurt. I don't see the issue. I really don't see the issue if someone using the argument that, like, hey, this makes us look bad. Okay, all right. I mean, so far this is all we got. I mean, I don't know. The only thing so far that I'm like really like, what the fuck is the funds thing? Like, where's that coming from? I'm not gonna read all these because I don't know. I'm not really that. I mean, this is just a philosophical thing of like, oh no, they're not using objective morality. They're using consequentialism, but they're coming to the same fucking conclusion. So who gives a fucking shit? Like, okay. All right. What's more likely? Benz is just a sincere and honest operator doing his best to bring truth to the world, or he's intelligence operative running operations, i.e. games. Let's remember, he didn't voluntarily confess any of this. He only spilled the tea after he's exposed, and then he released his own statement to try and control the frame. He says he's done with frame games, but I'm not so sure. Oh, Jesus, goes on. Much of this information has already been covered marvelously by name redacted, but it's been over a year. So at this time, it's for a refresh. I'm not watching a 10-minute video. You guys can, if you want. You can go hunt this thing down. This is literally Mike Benz. First, he infiltrated and led the alt-right resistance movement that ended up with massive censorship of the alt-right. Now he's rebranded and leading the resistance movement against that same internet censorship, which is controlled by Jews. When will the Gentiles learn a lesson? Okay, so this is him. This is something from him he shared. Okay, this is the last one. I promise you this, as anti-Jewish sentiments continue to rise, you're going to see Jews and former fanatical Jew lovers suddenly side with the rising tide of anti-Jewish sentiment. You're going to see Jews start speaking out against all the evils Jews have done to white people. Why? Because those Jews and Jew lovers are trying to gain and maintain influence over the pro-white community. Jews have no problem being anti-Jewish if that it means that Jews can control the anti-Jewish movement. Keep your eyes open for this in the very near future. All right, I will give you that one. That one comes off as incredibly ironic. If this is him, especially because he's I guess at this point not out and out with his identity. And so he's literally saying, hey, a bunch of Jews are going to rush to this so they can control it, even though they're not actually. Okay, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that one's pretty bad. That is not a good look. I'll give you that. All right, let's check in with the chat. I have a couple more ones on this topic. I mean, maybe we'll glean some more that makes us think there's something to this, but let me check in with you guys. All right. Top. Okay, what do we see? This feels more like more Groyper jealousy than a gotcha, similar to Nick's criticism of Dave. But Ben still glows. Yeah, see what I mean? Like it does. I have a light glow. I mean, but I might be wrong. I mean, so I'm willing to admit there might be wrong. But I will say this is a whole lot of words for not that much. I mean, I was expecting something like whoa, but there were more a couple of oh, maybe. So that was way too much reading for a couple little maybes. Yeah, not much. Makes us look bad is not a good enough deterrent. I guess. I don't know. Not necessarily. I mean, makes us look bad. You are bad. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've done lots of arguments on consequentialism versus what is it? God, I can't remember what the fucking term. Whatever the essentially the objective morality type thing. There's a term for it. I can't think of it. Ontological. No, I'm fucking up my big words. My $3 words are all fucked right now. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think it makes that big of a difference at the end of the day. I mean, if you think about it, you could really kind of autist yourself into thinking that everything is consequentialism if you think about it. So, but that's some big brain topic, and we're not going into deep philosophy here. But point being, it's kind of whatever, dude, they're coming to the same conclusion. I mean, you're just kind of looking for something that isn't there, I guess. And it honestly kind of came off as in a way where he's arguing with people that are saying things that, you wouldn't like them to say. And he's saying, hey, you're making us look bad. So if that's the art, I mean, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have an objective morality and isn't coming at this from objective morality. He's just using that argument against someone. And it makes sense to kind of be hey, you make us look bad. That doesn't mean that is his belief. Doesn't mean he's a consequentialist. He's just making a consequentialist argument. So that's kind of this is why it's kind of just it's just fucking stupid. All right, we'll do one more from Sam Parker, this guy, and then we'll pop on over there. We'll do one more from Sam Parker. There's a little video from old Nicky Fuentes in here. So I figured it might be interesting to listen to that. And also give me a second to breathe and drink my coffee. It says, Spook exposed, Mike Benz. Where'd this guy come from? Asked Nick Fuentes, who explained how Benz infiltrated the pro-white movements years ago to help de-radicalize the right-wing dissident political sphere. By the way, is anyone else looking to Benz dismantling the ADL Mossad Unit 8200 censorship operations with the same vigor as he's been exposing everyone else? More info in the thread below. Oh, and then he shared his thread. Okay, well, let's watch this video real quick. It's a minute. All right.
This is a concerted effort to de-radicalize the online right. Pay close attention. Mike Benz, is that a name you recognize? Look up Mike Benz, B-E-N-Z. Mike Benz, I'm sure he's a nice guy. Mike Benz comes from these dissident right circles. He was on Joe Rogan today. Mike Benz ran cybersecurity in the State Department in the Trump administration. Where did this guy come from? He was doxxed last year by the left. He used to go by the name Frame Game Radio. A lot of you guys probably have never heard of him. But back in 2016, he was a very prominent anonymous Twitter account and YouTuber promoting white nationalism, promoting dissident right politics as a Jew. When he was doxxed and they revealed that this guy who's now on Joe Rogan, who now talks to Elon Musk, who now has a big Twitter account, who now is interviewed by the Unit 8200 IDF spy that runs Prager University, the guy that talks about tech censorship and spying, but never about the Mossad, when they doxed him for being an alt-right content creator and YouTuber, you know what he said? He said, as a Jew, I infiltrated the white nationalist right to make them less anti-Semitic, to de-radicalize them. That's what I was there to do. That guy was on Joe Rogan today to talk about tech censorship and spying.
All right. Well, that's that. I mean, I didn't really add anything else to it, I don't think, but whatever. We got to hear a little Nicky Poo. Oh. Sorry. What's this guy saying? I can understand what Desi's dick is mouth. By the way, I actually don't, I mean, I haven't forensically analyzed the dick, but I actually don't think that was probably Destiny's dick. That's just my feeling. Not that I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's gay, but I don't know. It's just my feeling on the matter. I might be wrong. I wouldn't be at least surprised if Fuentes is a big old flaming homo, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem enough. If the dick doesn't fit, you must have quit. You know. All right, let's pop over to another person, which is, this isn't really the Groyper. I don't believe this broad is in the Groyper sphere, but I do want to hear what she has to say. I've seen her around. I don't know much about her. Kristen Ruby at Sparkling Ruby, social media expert at Ruby Media Group CEO. I could have swore I saw her like months ago or something going on about Benz had stolen work from her or something. But I know she's had some sort of axe to grind against him for a while too, for some fucking reason. I don't know. I'd be happy to have her on. I feel like I've seen other stuff from her that was pretty interesting stuff. I want to say it was like she, I don't know, kind of like tangentially to some of the stuff BX was sharing, I think, at some point. I forget. But either way, I'm pretty sure she shared some good work. I haven't really followed her in her work enough to really say too much about her. But that's just kind of what I know about her, so you guys can kind of get a starting point. And she says, Joe Rogan didn't ask Mike Benz a single question about his grandfather. James Angleton was an American intelligence operative who served as chief of the counterintelligence department of the CIA from 1954 to 1975. Yeah, this is one of Delos' homies. Dr. Bruno Uberti trained at Area B with James Angleton. Uberti was a former OSS officer. Dr. Bruno Uberti was Mike's grandfather. Now, I do want to start off and say, I mean, yes, Joe Rogan didn't. Who the fuck do you think Joe Rogan is? I mean, I don't know why you would think that, like, I mean, this guy, I don't know how often is he doing podcasts? Probably what? I'd say at least 2 to 5 times a week. I'm not sure how many of these come out. But, I mean, do you really expect him? He's vetting every one of these people. He's looking into their family ties. And I'm not saying she does say that. Obviously, she's trying to create a way to lead into bringing that up. But I just know some people might get that impression that, you know, people are just like, oh, being shitty. They're like, oh, why didn't Joe Rogan ask this? It's like, that's not what Joe Rogan is. It's like, no, he's not going to fucking look into all the details of your life and fucking, you know, try to grill you. He's just, you're there to have a conversation. All right, let's read this little thing she pulled. The task of hunting them down belonged to OSS Counterintelligence X2, and particularly its chief in Italy, 26-year-old Lieutenant James Jesus Angleton Jr., who had joined the OSS in September 1943 and had gone through OSS training camps in Virginia and Maryland, including SO training at Area B. Dr. Bruno Uberti, a refugee from fascist Italy who trained at Area B with Angleton, remembered Angleton is extremely brilliant but a little strange. I would have liked to have been one of his friends, Uberti said, but he never gave me a chance because he was so secretive. The son of an overseas vice president for the National Cash Register Company, Angleton completed his training with a successful industrial espionage scheme in which he was able to infiltrate the office of the chairman of the Western Electric Company. Fluent in Italian because his father's office had been in Milan, Angleton was enrolled in counterintelligence and soon dispatched to the Italian desk of that branch in London and subsequently in Rome. All right, not reading all that. It cuts off anyways. All right, I'm not. Okay, what the fuck is all this? All right, I'm not reading all. Okay, this is. I guess this is. Yeah, this is the. What's the word I'm looking for? God, why am I having such a brain fart right now? This is this is his what is it when people die? Obituary. This is obituary. God, how can I not think of that? Obituary on Uberti. And it says on August 9th, 1998, Olivia M., wife of the late Bruno J. Uberti of Wynwood, formerly of Springfield, mother of Marie Uberti Benz, MD, Barbara, William, and Robert, also survived by 6 grandchildren, Gregory, Michael, Marie, Elizabeth, Natalie, and Morgan. Are not reading the rest. You get the idea. Yes, he is. That is his grandpa. This is more in a separate operation. This is another piece that she pulled. It said in a separate operation in 1943 and 1944, the OSS Secret Intelligence Branch seeking strategic as contrasted to tactical intelligence inserted and recruited agents in central and northern Italy. The overall effectiveness of that operation remains a subject of controversy. A few of those indigenous operatives ultimately became double agents and were turned against the Allies by the Nazis, or were Nazis agents from the start. As the Allies advanced, the Nazis and Italian fascists also planted stay-behind agents for purposes of intelligence gathering and sabotage. That's what we call Gladio. The task of hunting them down belonged to OSS counterintelligence X2, and particularly its chief in Italy, 26-year-old Lieutenant James Angleton, Jr., who had joined the OSS in September 1943 and gone through OSS training camps in... is this the same one? What the fuck? That's the same thing. She shared that. My bad. I'm sorry to have shared that all over again. Okay, I'm scrolling through this. It's just little clips that she pulled about... just kind of verifying that this Uberti guy was spooked up. All right. Frame Games wants to talk about everything except what actually matters, his family, history, intelligence. Tell us more about counter intel, Mike. And then she shared, what the fuck? She's sharing more about Angleton and Bruno Uberti. She's just sharing, screenshots from Google, I guess. It says, when your grandfather was trained by top spy James Angleton, you are intel adjacent. Mike is running a counter op to make sure people don't understand the truth about AI censorship. He tells strange stories to scare people, half of which are not based in reality. All of the stories are political in nature. They never have to do with how real people are actually impacted by censorship. That is another clear giveaway that he doesn't care about the topic at hand. A critical component of this op is to neutralize me and drown me out by amplifying him. He is not a threat. He's an asset. Every time he speaks, he helps the tech companies he lobbies for. That's why they keep promoting him and also help him get booked. They need him. Look here, not there. He also likes to conjure up manufactured sob stories that he is in danger and will be killed for telling the truth. He said the same thing as Frame Game too. A check of records shows that this is patently false. No reports filed for fear of his life. No one ever tried to do anything at all, but he loves to tell people he's in grave danger for telling the truth because it wins sympathy. Mike continues to overemphasize the alleged role the U.S. government played in censorship while downplaying the role tech companies played. He has zero interest in holding anyone accountable for this. The letters he has Jordan write go nowhere. It's all a distraction to keep you stuck and confused. Look back and ask yourself what progress has been made. The answer is none. He views progress as getting his enemies deplatformed, debanked, and shut down. That is not progress. It is political warfare. He views this as Gamergate, with zero care for the actual victims of censorship. To Mike, the anti-censorship industry is a path to power. He saw how successful the censorship industry was and wanted in on the glory. At the end of the day, both of these groups care more about fighting each other than solving the actual issue at hand. It's about people and personalities more than policy and solutions. Fundamentally, that hurts American people who no one seems to care about. Those are the real victims of this. These self-appointed leaders never fight for them, only themselves. In the same way he wanted to be Richard Spencer as Frame Game, he wanted to be Renee as Mike Benz. He cannot stand to see other people get attention. This is why he infiltrates and destroys whatever movement is happening at the time. But most of all, Mike Benz wanted to be Chris Ruby. That's her. I didn't need to play a frame game to tell the truth to millions of people. Mike was filled with jealous rage over this, and at that moment realized I had to be taken out. He stopped at nothing to do it. But first, he had to pretend we were on the same side and fighting for the same thing. He had to pretend he would write about the Ruby files to get me to give them to him. As the days went by and he never wrote about the Ruby files, I knew something was very off. He said he couldn't write about my files because my name was on my work. He infiltrated the Ruby files in the same way he infiltrated the alt-right. He pretends to be one of you while redirecting and moving the narrative to whatever he wants it to be. As long as it's about him and not you, and as long as he can dethrone the leader and face the movement. He is doing the same thing today as he did his frame games. The only difference is the topic and the people. All right, that's all of it. I will say... obviously, I don't know the whole story behind this, but it does very much come off as a woman jilted. I mean, sorry, but she might be right. I don't know. I would need more details. I'd need to know more about the lore she's speaking of, about stuff he supposedly stole or whatever. Which I don't even know if I care that much to get this much in the weeds. Once again, I'd be okay with having her on, but I will say the grandfather connection, while weak, interesting, very interesting, because it is this is very common in the stuff I've looked through, that it is generational. So let's pop back in the chat. Got Tyler again saying James G. Angleton personally tracked Oswald prior to the JFK assassination. Yeah, dude, Angleton was a big player. For those who don't know him, he was a big dog. He was, I think, the guy kind of rooting out counter or double agents. I guess that's the word I was looking for. Arcane says newsflash, hose mad. He said goes mad. But yeah, that's kind of how it feels, although it could be completely legit. I don't know, because a lot of that did seem to be a lot of like pontificating about him and how he is and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I don't know, you're putting a lot on that. So all right, we have one more, and then we're going to get into our Dutroux affair reading, and this one's going to be a little bit long today. I'll go ahead and warn you guys that, and I'm probably not going to be able to actually show it, because there's a few like borderline pornographic images in the article, which I don't know why the fuck they would include that, but whatever. All right, let's here we go. Eric Weinstein told millions of people to follow Mike Benz. This is her again, by the way, Chris and Ruby, while pretending to warn of the real danger of covert ops. Missing from Eric's post is a disclaimer that Mike's grandfather was trained by top spy James Angleton, blah, 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 a well-known American intelligence operative who served as chief of the counterintelligence department of the CIA. Mike's grandfather was personally trained by James Angleton. While pretending to warn you about counterintelligence, Eric is actually encouraging you to become a victim of the current counterintel op Mike is running. Bravo. Let me see. And then this is Eric Weinstein. He says, please follow Mike Benz. A thought after talking with him, perhaps we all need to stop using the word intelligence so much. Why? Because it is doing a lot of the work to cloak what we need to be worrying about. Covert operations. To remind ourselves, covert operations are operations with gaslighting plans to their structure in case they are exposed. They are the operations that can't be exposed and have deniability built into their foundations, even if that means destroying reporters, politicians, experts, and civilians who get wind that something stinks. Now, I did share this because I wanted to go over this with you guys because just the simple fact that Eric Weinstein is out here amplifying Mike Benz seemed fishy to me. I vaguely recall one of the Weinstein brothers had some sort of thing recently, information that came out that he wrote like a paper for the UN. And I don't remember what it was for. If it was for like a depopulation or something fucking like, what the fuck? And like, yeah, granted, I believe it was a while ago. So it's like, who knows? Maybe he's turned over a new page, but it's still very much like makes me wonder, what the fuck is up with these guys? And so it's like, I don't know, were they also some sort of op being pulled over us? I don't know. Fucking the whole world is ops, dog. I don't know. I vaguely recalled that. So it seemed, assuming I'm correct, you guys let me know in the chat if that's something you remember as well, that there was some sort of something along those lines. So it seems like a glowy may be amplifying a glowy. But obviously that's very weak as well. But then she quote tweets the thing we read before. But all right. Here's Eric Weinstein. I worry about the covert operators every day. Eric Weinstein, please follow Mike Benz. This man is a gift to America. The reality. Mike Benz is a covert operator and comes from a long line of covert operators trained in counterintelligence who worked for the FBI or for the CIA. Mike is a source of character assassination. He runs clandestine ops to do it so that he can't be traced back to him. Ask me how I know. All right. Well, if I get smeared, you guys know why. Although I'm not even really taking a strong stance here. I'm just kind of pointing out obvious stuff. She says here, tell me about character assassination. And then she just kind of points out some tweets where people say she's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this. I don't know. Sorry, Kristen. That just kind of seems like crazy stuff. This is 2 anecdotal examples. I don't know any of these, and it's just someone saying you're crazy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you were just being crazy. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a jump, but maybe you're onto something. Oh, okay. I don't know. In this next tweet, maybe you're about to explain it, so maybe you aren't being just a crazy person. All right, the ones warning you about covert operators, the actual covert operators. This is not drill. Don't you find it odd he called me insane in 2023 when I've been around for 15 years as a public figure? If I am insane now, I would have been insane then. So why no public declaration of insanity prior to 2023? These people are defamation machines and scream about censorship while censoring opponents through destroying their reputations with constant smears and attacks. The only speech they believe in or fight it for is their own. The goal is to ensure they can speak and that you can't. That's what free speech means to them. Look, they have treated me and made me invisible. That's the free speech world they want for you. I mean, so this once again, she's showing this Nate Fisher guy again, which was one I showed a minute ago that said she was being crazy, and then now it's him saying how great Mike. I don't know. This just seems anecdotal. I don't know. I'm sorry if you watch this, Kristen. This isn't really that strong, at least not so far. And unless I'm missing something, that kind of just makes you look a little petty. I don't know. The tech/VC firms have a vested interest in getting Mike Benz booked because he never actually tells the truth about their role in censorship. He's a gift to them because he lies for them. That's why they need him. He says just enough to make you think you are getting the truth when you are actually getting nothing at all. Eric is worried about that covert operators becoming less effective. That is what he's actually worried about, hence the rollout of Mike Benz with the fake cool person Gamergate persona. They have to try this hard because no one else is working. It's quite frankly pathetic. I don't know. I mean, she really. This is a whole lot of words once again to just point out that like the only things of interest I found here were his family ties and the Weinstein thing. Which I mean, I might even be wrong. There might be somebody else I'm thinking of who did that. So like, I don't know. I mean, my verdict. I mean, this is the end of is Mike Benz a Fed? I don't know. I mean, he's got a slight glow to him. I'll give you that. He's a little bit iffy. His physiognomy says Fed. There's a couple little things like his family ties. That's iffy. The Weinstein thing's very, very weak, but then that perks my ears up. What was the other thing I found? Oh, the money he got for... I mean, I will say even, too, that him being an undercover Jew or whatever, weird. Yeah. And then we have Arcane here says, I'm just happy to hear from the members of Tower Gang not talking about wieners for an hour and a half. Yeah. Well, all right, guys, let me check in. I'm looking over, make sure there's nothing going on over at Rumble. Popped over there. By the way, you guys can do Rumble rants if you really, really have something you want me to hear and you want to give me money. And I like money. So, but let's move on over to the Dutroux Fair. We're going to do that, and then we're going to get out of here for the day. God, I had a brain fart all of a sudden. I do want to remind you I know a lot of people might pop out here. If you're listening to this on audio podcasts, fucking leave a review, dude. That would really help out. I'm trying to boost up those numbers. So if you could help with that, if you get something out of this, I mean, if you do enjoy the show, please do that. I mean, just looking at like the numbers on any podcatcher, like on any podcast, really is astounding. How, like when you look at their their numbers and you compare it to how many people actually leave a review, it's criminal. It's probably like 1 to 5%. I'd say probably actually leave a review. It takes you 2 seconds on most of them. So yeah, if you guys do that, I'd very much appreciate that. That'd be fucking dope. So they say another insurance company put out a hit. Possibly. I don't know who they is. But all right, yeah, if you guys do end up having any more information, I do remind you guys, tag me and stuff on Twitter if there's anything that seems like something that I'd be interested in covering. Tag me. I'm not annoyed with getting tags. I mean, the worst case scenario, I'll just look over and go meh, and then just move on. But if there's something you think is worthwhile, I see all the things you guys tag me in. So, but all right, guys, let's move on to the Dutroux affair. I'm not sharing it right now because right on the page is some like borderline pornography. There's like some weird animal stuff because, I mean, we'll get into it. Obviously, I don't know why they felt the need to share it. Obviously, it's informational to kind of back up some of the stuff going on there. but gross. But all right, it says a sniff of extreme abuse. And obviously we're deep into this. So if you're just popping in now, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. You may want to go back and watch, find part 1. It'll say in the title, it'll say part 1, find part 1 of the Dutroux Affair reading. Maybe start from there. But this is where we're at right now. A sniff of extreme abuse. DID was created in X1 because of her background of extreme abuse. But what did this abuse actually involve? First, there was the psychological aspect. X1 never received any support or love from her parents, her grandmother, Tony, or any of her abusers, especially Tony and the grandmother, who acted as her pimps, indoctrinated X1 with the belief that she was a nobody, that besides Tony, nobody cared about a little whore like her, and she was too stupid to become anything else than a prostitute, and that love is something you can never get for free. Furthermore, X1 was blamed for just about anything that happened to her, to other children in the network, to her pets, or even to those who abused her. For example, if X1 had given, Gluck, which is gross given the scenario here, because we're not talking about an adult, so fuck, to her pimp, which wasn't satisfying enough, he would beat her up, yelling at her that she was worthless and that it wasn't her fault she was so upset. By the way, I changed the word not to be crude just because I don't know, I didn't want to hit it for the censors. I felt gross saying that word, but it was the first one that came to mind, especially given the circumstance. I feel dirty about that. I felt dirty even using the word they use, but if X1's abusers found out that she had given out signals of her abuse to the outside world, another girl would be tortured in front of her eyes. During the torture, the perpetrators would scream at her that this was all her fault and would put her face into the other girl's blood. X1 then had to ask forgiveness to the other girl. Even when X1's best friend was graped and unalived in front of her eyes, probably because this girl became too old, she was the one to blame. In most cases, X1 was blamed for things she had absolutely no control over. The same thing happened to many other girls in the network. For the abusers, it was a way to destroy the victim's self-esteem and confidence, making them perfect slaves of a certain variety and objects for sadistic torture. Besides the psychological indoctrination, X1 and the other victims reported to have undergone a whole range of other traumatic experience. A session of violent butt stuff, I guess is the best way to put it, at 3 would certainly fit in that category, as would be being graped by a dog at 4. It's gross. I mean, I guess I probably should give it a disclaimer here. We are kind of getting into the weeds of this one. It hasn't really gone as graphic in previous ones, and this is kind of the portion of it where we're at now. So, if you have a weak stomach, I'm sorry. I will try to be gentle, but it's this is gross stuff. But it's fucked up shit that happens in the world. Their demons exist. But there were also the ice cold showers, the long and painful tie downs, the many beatings, the grapes with knives and scissors, and torture with razor blades. One of X1's many experiences. Pierre forced me back on my knees, pushed me with my face on the cool table surface, and the other tied my left and right wrists to the bed. I was unable to move in any direction, was forced to stay in this humiliating position. Everything is set ready, the lamps are pushed in the right direction, the light intensity is measured. What is about to happen? I don't know, but the tension is building in my stomach. What's the deal with those dogs? I feel how the claws of the rough-haired dog are pressing into my sides. I feel he's panting in my neck, drool from his tongue, and is dripping on my back. I scream as I feel how his paws clasp me, his nails pressing my skin. Get him off me, I scream. The cries are lost in enthusiastic cheer. Oh, God, I'm not even going to read the rest of that. That's gross. Obviously, you guys get what happened here. Besides having been graped by dogs, X1 also spoke about how Bernard Weinstein, an associate of Dutroux until murdered by him in 1995, and Annie Bouty, the former girlfriend of Nihul, sometimes walked around with a snake at abuse sessions, which they used to grape the girls with. Sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? However, the pictures above were confiscated from a child abuse network and appeared in the Dutroux dossier. I'm going to take a second to remind you guys, definitely follow me on Rumble, because one of these days, YouTube's going to go fucking review all this shit. I said Jew like 300 times this episode, talked about a lot of alt-right shit, and now we're going into this. So please follow me on Rumble or audio podcatchers, because, I'm not destined long for YouTube. But anyways, among the hundreds of photos there are quite a few of children being graped by dogs. There are also 2 or 3 photos which show young girls with snakes. I'm not going further with that. Stuff with animals is not uncommon either. Following is another example which According to Regina, it happened to her in Knock when she was 10 years old. Ugh, gross. This one's hard to get through. I'm trying to see. When the contractions started, her ex-one's grandmother made a phone call. The Lippens brothers, Van den Boynens, and the assistant police commissioner of Knock arrived. De Boynvizen and Van der Elst arrived thereafter. Keep in mind, I just said the police commissioner arrived, and this is implying the police commissioner is involved here. Van der Elst puts a knife on her throat while Bonvoisen grapes. All right, this is awful. I'm not reading all that. Just know awful shit happened, and according to her, you guys can go read this on your own. This is the Belgian X dossiers of the Dutroux affair from isgp-studies.com. So rough stuff. I don't even like looking at this. This is gross. But yeah, and then she got, to sum up this thing, she was supposedly giving birth, and awful things happened to her there. Really, really awful things. And then I guess the daughter disappeared, and then she only saw her daughter at the factory again, is what she told it, which I'm assuming is some sort of place where they brought the kids or something. So fucked up. All right. What's there to say about this piece of testimony? The events sound bizarre, but the names and the details have been repeated by other independent witnesses. Regina also frequently spoke about the end circuit, in which many girls tend to end up by the time they reach their 16th birthday. Growing too old, not going along with abuse, or failing to satisfy a customer. According to Regina, this could all lead to a child prostitute's untimely death. X1, 2, 3, and 4, Natalie W., VM1, Jock Thoma, Pascal Willems, and others all spoke about kids being unalived. These unalives were often captured on video, which were subsequently shown at a number of abuse parties. Besides the already powerful statements from witnesses, there's also some independent evidence that these so-called snuff films, like child abuse networks, are more than just an urban myth as they are usually referred to. All right, I'm going to bring this back up. Because now we're past the stuff that'll get me in trouble. All right, let's pop back in. What story is this, and why are you reading it? I thought you've been in here for the other ones. This is the Dutroux affair. I'm reading it because, for one, I want to get a wider understanding of the Dutroux affair, and I'm bringing you guys along with me. But yeah, I'm done with J2 for a while now. I only go there to find new people and hope they have a Rumble channel. Yeah. Good. Get away from YouTube, people. But yes, this is the Dutroux affair, which is essentially I guess you could say almost like an Epstein type thing going on in Belgium. What was it in the 2000s or 2010s? I think, I forget. It seemed to have direct ties to Gladio, the royalty. There's a lot to this. But all right. Back to it. Did you take the Dolo, the notorious nightclub that played a central role in the X dossier in the life of Michel Nihoul, who was one of its most prominent visitors? The Dolo was one of the locations in Belgium where important police commissioners, politicians, lawyers, and directors of several well-known companies interacted with gang leaders, alleged PDFs, and individuals involved in human trafficking. You guys know when I say PDF, because what is a PDF file? Think that one through. In 1997, Claude Max Van Bergen, the former valet of the Dolo and driver of Dolores Barra, the co-owner of the Dolo, testified that several Dolo visitors, including a person named Dutroux and Nihoul, were involved in a PDF ring which kidnapped children. The official report of Van Bergen also states, Van K heard Nihoul and Dutroux speak about cages for children to make them suffer. Videos from the USA would show black children in cages in which they were tortured and burned. This is in 1992-93. Real quick, sorry, I gotta call. All right, there we go. All right, sorry guys, I'm still feeling a little bit on the weather, getting better, but I'm all stocked up. Got to cough every now and then and cough up some phlegm. All right. The generally accepted origins of the snuff movie go back to the early 1970s, the name having been derived from Charles Manson, who is said to have coined the term snuff for unaliving, and his family, a cult who committed a number of unalives, which some claimed were filmed. Some years after these facts, beginning on October 2nd, 1975, there was a brief string of newspaper reports that the FBI and several police departments were investigating claims of reporters and informants that a number of 8mm films One of them from Argentina. By the way, 8mm, great movie about this exact topic with Nicolas Cage. It's an old one, but go check it out if you haven't heard of it. Had been smuggled into the country showing showing pornographic sessions ending in real murders or unalives. God damn, I screwed it up. Details were provided for only one film, and they turned out to be very similar to the snuff scene added to the movie Snuff, brought out in early 1976. Besides details of the scene, this movie had also been recorded in Argentina. As not a peep was heard anymore from Detective Joseph Horman, who had spoken to the media in early 1975, it is generally assumed the police and FBI were not on the trail of any real snuff movies. Even today, the existence of snuff movies remains controversial because publicly available visual evidence of these type of films is not available. Initially, the author of this article was quite intrigued by one of the pictures that appeared in the Dutroux dossier showing a girl impaled on a pole between all the hundreds of confiscated abuse pictures. But after a bit of research, this turned out to be a controversial scene for the 1981 movie Cannibal Holocaust, one of the movies often cited by skeptics who want to prove that the sole source of rumors about snuff films are bizarre horror movies like these. Other movies cited by skeptics are Flowers of Flesh and Blood, Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, and the earlier mentioned Snuff. However, there's a big difference between these horror movies and the video of which screenshots can be seen on the left. In this low-quality, unedited home video, a person is seen torturing and raping a girl, allegedly his daughter, who's been tied to a chair. During the half hour the torture lasts, the perpetrator pierces the victim's, nips, nails her right hand to the chair, pulls loose her fingernails, grapes her with a knife, and does a number of highly unpleasant things to her. Officially, it's not a snuff movie because the victim isn't killed, at least not that day. Another session was announced for the next day, and it isn't known if this video was sold or distributed in the network. But one can wonder why this perpetrator, like PDFs as Jan Paul, Raymakers, and Dutroux, was filming his own abuse for personal use, or for the same reasons that Raymakers and others gave to distribute it in a network. In stark contrast to the lacking visual evidence, victim witnesses not only have been testifying about violent abuse and trafficking networks for a long time, they also mentioned very specific and similar details, including the torturing and unaliving of kids, sometimes in front of cameras. These reports really got off the ground in the United States in 1987, followed a few years later by Great Britain. Since the Dutroux case exploded, we also know that similar testimonies have come from Belgium and surrounding countries. As we shall see, Russia followed in 2000. One of the more interesting cases pertaining to snuff movies is a child abuse and trafficking ring of Brits who were forced to relocate to the Amsterdam region in the 1980s. Over the years, this ring made the news on several occasions. The first time in 1990, when a teenage victim witness, Andrew, contacted welfare workers of the British National Association for Young People in Care, NAPIC. Andrew claimed to have been a victim of a British PDF ring and forced on several occasions to film snuff movies in a warehouse in or around Amsterdam. The welfare workers were skeptical, but until further developments, the teenager was allowed to live in the room of NAPIC's London's development officer, Mary Moss. Just before Andrew was to give a more official testimony, he was drugged and pulled into a van right in front of Moss's home. The teenager had already been threatened and followed in the streets before his kidnapping. It's not known if he was ever seen of again. The report on Andrew also stated, welfare staff at NAPIC have been convinced by Andrew and other runaways that such snuff films are being made. They have been told of a PDF group known as the Elite 12, which is prepared to pay up to £5,000 to youngsters to make videos including torture and sadomasochism, which may lead to unaliving. They have also been told of a snuff movie made last year when a 14-year-old boy was beaten by 3 men in an East End flat, raped, and battered to death with clubs. Chris Fay, an adult advisor to the association, said, I'm convinced such videos exist. I've been shown one in Amsterdam by a Dutch colleague. It showed 3 men wearing leather masks cutting up a girl aged 13 with a flick knife. In this article, one of the top experts in PDF, Ray Wire, is quoted as having seen snuff movies in the United States. On other occasions, Wire explained that he watched them while on a fellowship in the United States while with the FBI doing his behavioral study on child abusers. Apparently, he later stated that the films he had been shown were sophisticated simulations, but was still sure that the FBI had real ones in possession. In April 1997, the British Amsterdam ring again made the news. The first thing reported was that there had already been inconclusive joint UK-Dutch investigations in 1990 and 1993. Also, by 1997, these police services were in the possession of at least 3 statements from child abusers that this ring had produced a number of snuff movies. Unfortunately, the only film specifically mentioned in the press had all the hallmarks of being fake, and indeed this later appears to have been the case. The PDF ring yet again made the news in June 1997 when it was announced that Warwick Spinks, a violent PDF who ran a homosexual boys club in Amsterdam, who also claimed he could arrange snuff films, was to be released. Spinks had been convicted... Sorry, I thought I heard honking. Spinks had been convicted only 2 years before for drugging and sexually assaulting a homeless boy, kidnapping him to Amsterdam, and selling him to a homosexual brothel. When his apartment was raided, police found his clients' names, details of their sexual preferences, phone numbers, and information about young boys. The most detailed investigation of the British child abuse colony in Amsterdam was published in November 2000 by the award-winning journalist Nick Davies. Now, even more evidence was provided for the existence of not only a vast boy trafficking network, but also for the existence of a small number of snuff movies. As it's always best to read the original sources, a long excerpt from this article follows. A year after Bristol detectives finally started to unravel the ring of PDFs who had been abusing children there for up to 20 years, they found an informant with an alarming story. The man, whom we will call Terry, had a long history of sexually abusing boys. He did not come from Bristol, but, by chance, he had come across some of the PDFs the detective was investigating. In Amsterdam, where he said they had become involved with a group of exiled British child abusers who had succeeded in commercializing their sexual obsession. The exiled PDFs were trafficking boys from other countries, running legitimate gay brothels, and selling underage boys under the counter. They had branched out into the production of CP. You guys know what that is. I'm not saying that for censor reasons. And they had killed some of them. Unalived, God damn it. Terry said he had seen most of the worst video himself and had vomited before he could reach the end. Soon, other informants were offering more detail. One man said he had seen Warwick Spinks selling a special video for £4,000. It showed a boy whom he thought was only 8 or 9 being abused in a certain way and tortured by 2 men. But the most startling allegations came from a gay man, Frank, who had gone to Amsterdam in July 1990 and found himself caught up in this PDF underworld. In 1993, he spoke to the same officers at Scotland Yard. Frank told police that Warwick Spinks had invited him to come on a trip to the Canaries, where he had suggested Frank should help him sell videos and showed him a sample. Frank said he watched in growing horror as the video played out a murder. God damn, I keep messing up. A boy who seemed to be no older than 12 was beaten and attacked with needles before being castrated and cut open with a knife. Scotland Yard and their Dutch counterpart recruited an undercover officer to pose as a child abuser and befriend Warwick Spinks in England. In a series of meetings, Spinks described how he picked up boys in Dresden, in Bratislava, in the Czech Republic, and in Poland, where he claimed they only cost £10. The undercover officer asked Spinks if he could get him a sadomasochist video featuring boys as young as 10, and Spinks replied that he knew people in Amsterdam who could, I know some people who were involved in making snuff videos, and how they did it was they only sold them in limited editions, made 10 copies or something. 10 very rich customers in America who paid $5,000 each or something like that. Spinks divulged no more about the video and failed to produce a copy on it. Without more evidence, Scotland Yard could not justify the expense of keeping the undercover officer or of sending officers to Amsterdam. What's the year on this real quick? 93. Okay, so there was $5,000 in like the early 90s, just for reference, because it doesn't sound like a lot. But I mean, the early 90s, I mean, that's probably what? This got to be at least worth double now. I mean, it still doesn't sound like much to get something like that commissioned, but in search of their origins, I went to Berlin, to the Bahnhof am Zoo, where the trains arrive from all over Eastern Europe, bringing the destitute in search of a dream. A specialist social worker there, Wolfgang Werner, told me there were some 700 East European boys aged 11 to 17 who had ended up in the sex industry in Berlin. But to his knowledge, many hundreds of others had been taken off on a kind of underground railroad which fanned out to Zurich and Hamburg and Frankfurt, and most of all to Rotterdam and Amsterdam. About that time, 1992, he and Edelman, Germans, stopped trafficking, not so much because of Goetsche's arrest, but because they had been told some of the boys were being used in snuff movies. At first sight, Terry might have been describing the video Frank saw, but its details differ. Frank described a video shot in a barn. Terry says his was shot in a flat. Frank described the abuse and murder of one boy. Terry says there was a second boy who was also being abused and was alive at the point you turned off the tape. And yet the overlap is striking. The specific nature of the violence is identical, and Terry names the man who actually committed the killing. He is the same German whose barn was allegedly picked as a porn studio by the CPers. Terry, Frank, Edward, and Spinks certainly mixed with the PDF colony in Amsterdam in 89-90, and all four separately claim at least one boy was unalived on video. Spinks told the undercover officer that a German boy was unalived. Frank says Spinks once hinted to him that a German boy named Manny had been unalived. We have confirmed from talking to boys who worked in Spuistrat, there were two clubs owned by vicious PDFs Alan Williams and Spinks, at the time that a boy of that name and nationality, then 14, did disappear. Terry, however, says he thinks the victim of that video, which he saw, was Dutch, named Marco, and probably 16. The Bristol detectives can get no further. The Dutch say they will not investigate, and Avon and Somerset police have neither the funds nor the legal power to run their own inquiry in the Netherlands. Other evidence of snuff movies had surfaced several weeks before the article above was published. In September 2000, the Italian media broke the story of a Russian child abuse network centered in Murmansk and Moscow, which besides regular CP and hardcore SM, also shot snuff movies, selling them for at least £4,000 per video. The kids were recruited through familiar tactics. They were lured away from the street or orphanages with empty promises, while a small number were kidnapped. Most clients, among them businessmen and government officials, came from Italy and Germany. Others came from France, Britain, America, and Japan. Several large financial companies were tied to the network, but names weren't given. The Observer reported, last week Italian police seized 3,000 of Kuznetsov's videos on their way to clients in Italy, sparking an international hunt for PDFs who have bought his products. The Italian investigators say the material includes footage of children being unalived during abuse. The Russian videos, which had been ordered over the internet, were intercepted when they came into Italy by post, repackaged, and then delivered by undercover police officers. They cost between £300 and £4,000, depending on what type of film was ordered. Covert film of young children not clothed was known as a snipe video. The most appalling category was codenamed Necros Pedo, in which children were raped and tortured until they were unalived. The Naples newspaper Il Mattino published a transcript of an alleged email exchange between a prospective client and the Russian vendors. "Promise me you're not ripping me off," says the Italian. "Relax, I can assure you this one really unalives," the Russian responds. "The last time I paid and I didn't get what I wanted. What do you want?" And he says, "To see them unalived." The Swedish newspaper added, "These pictures are unbearable for normal people to watch. Here are prolonged grape sequences with children begging to be spared. They are abused until they faint. Then they are unalived in front of the cameras. Yes, there are even scenes of actual autopsies on young people." Ugh. In the product catalog of the PDFs were pictures of a 10-year-old who had been killed by or unalived by hanging, a 5-year-old with a grimace of pain, an adult is killed by gradual crushing. Even though this news is hugely important, there have been only a handful of newspaper reports about this whole affair. In Italy, some of the most passionate reporters were quickly done away with after they had shown a number of abuse images in the late-night television program. In contrast to the U.S. media, which appears to have been completely silent on the subject, several British newspapers briefly wrote about the affair. But even in Italy, the whole matter vanished from the public eye within 1 or 2 weeks, with no follow-up reports having been published since. So as usual, those who want answers are left with numerous questions. Have the hundreds of suspects against whom evidence was found been prosecuted? What happened to the thousands of others who are still under investigation? Was this network tied to other networks? What happened to the videos? Can snuff movies be considered a myth? As for Belgium, besides witnesses in the Dutroux affair, there have been others who claim that child abuse and snuff networks are a reality. In July 1998, Marcel Vervelswom and his Markoven work group, a private anti-CP group, made international headlines after having obtained thousands of pictures from an internet-based sadistic CP network ran from an apartment in Zandvoort. They also acquired a list of clients and associates of this network, which turned out to include the earlier mentioned Warwick Spinks. Because the children who appeared in these pictures came from all over the world, international police agencies were very interested and managed to identify several dozen victims. It was mainly the Dutch and Belgian authorities who failed to do their job, and one reads that there are links to the British Amsterdam PDF ring, a person who probably procured children for high-level officials In anonymous contact with the Dutch royal family and one of the girls named by X1, things suddenly began to make sense again. Another overlooked fact is the Morkhoven work groups claimed that they were in the possession of a snuff film, which they showed to Hubert Brons, a member of parliament and a mayor of a Belgian county, and Nellie Mays, a former member of Belgian parliament, European Parliament, a senator, and today's chairman of the European Free Alliance Party. Jan Boykins, chairman of the Morkhoven work group. Several years ago, I saw with Hubert Brons and Nellie Mays a videotape at Marcel Varvaslum's on which it could be seen how a criminal dressed as a physician raped a constantly crying young kid in the doctor's cabinet while a 12-year-old, a so-called nurse, brought in the necessary instruments in a platter. These are hard to read. Bruns and Mays, together with Mark Verwilgen, the chairman of the Dutroux Commission, was reminded that the Belgian Minister of Justice in November 1997 about some of the work the Morkhoven Group had done, but the recommendations were disregarded. Researchers of the Morkhoven Work Group have been relentlessly persecuted and intimidated ever since they first began their investigations in 1989. Vervloswam, I can't get that word right, that doesn't sound right at all to me, has been the main target of both the Justice Department and the media, but he still fared better than one of his colleagues. On November 15, 1998, one of the Morkhoven Work Group investigators, Gina Pardans Berner, died when she drove into the bridge pillar. Few in her surroundings believe this to be an accident. Pardens also had spoken to a number of friends about a video of a sex party in which a little girl was abused and unalived. Now, this is, I actually remember when we talked about this a while ago when we were reading the 25 plus suspicious deaths surrounding Dutroux. This is one of the ones that came up. She thought to have recognized one of the participants in that video as a close associate of Michel Nihoul. It was also said that she had gotten her hands on evidence of a Belgian, French, Swiss child abuse network and had sent what she had to the very interested Swiss police. In the weeks and days before her death, Pardens had been warned off her investigation on many occasions. She had received numerous death threats. Her son had been run off his bike by a car. Emails and phone calls had been intercepted. Strangers followed her in the streets and in cars. During a train ride, she had been stopped by men who told her to cease her inquiries. At times, her phone calls, fax machine, and internet were jammed, and she'd been interrogated and intimidated over one of the children she'd been trying to find. It has not been unusual for people who could testify against Nihoul's innocence or provide evidence of a larger network around Dutroux in general to be intimidated or unalived. There have been at least 20 to 25 suspicious unalives tied to the Dutroux case, with just as many reports of intimidation. At some point, the unalives became so obvious that John Dennis Lejeune, the father of one of the girls kidnapped by Dutroux, remarked, "As if by coincidence, people are unalived. There is no explanation for their unalives. For instance, they are victims of a deadly traffic accident just when they are underway to testify, or one finds their charred bodies. Our judiciary apparently doesn't have sleepless nights over this." But besides members of the Morkhoven work group, there was another Belgian researcher who already in the early 1990s gave detailed information about Belgian child abuse networks and the reality of snuff movies. His name is Jean-Pierre Van Rossum, and apparently just before bailing out, he had even arranged to play in one. No doubt Van Rossum is one of the most eccentric and controversial persons of Belgium. However, even though he looks like a doped-up cult leader, he certainly isn't. In the 1970s, Van Rossum developed a piece of software called Moneytron, which apparently could quite accurately predict trends in the money market. With an average return on investments of 18 to 25% in the 1980s and early 1990s, Van Rossum gained a fortune of several $100 million and attracted businessmen from all over the world. At some point, he also counted the Belgian royal family among his clients. In 1991, Van Rossum was sentenced to 5 years in jail on charges of massive financial fraud, released after about a third of the sentence, which is normal in Belgium. It would probably have been a lot longer if his clients would have testified against him. However, a lot of the money Van Rossum was handed appears to have been dirty. Just before being convicted, Van Rossum had become active in libertarian politics and had won 3 seats in parliament. Around this time he went to jail, he had begun to write books. One of these books was Hoe kom ik van de ground? How Do I Get Off the Ground? Published in 1993, in which he described his experiences with escort services, brothels, SM clubs, and other aspects of sex culture. Even though he was enormously wealthy and knew everything about finance, Van Rossum was mostly shunned by the Belgian aristocracy. Besides his unusual look and simple background, his anarchist tendencies appear to have been the main cause of that. Van Rossum has made numerous peppered statements not only against the Belgian royal family and Islam, but more recently also about the West financial clique keeping the world poor, 9/11, and bird flu. From his book, Van Rossum gathered a small group of people who went to all kinds of different sex clubs to give them a rating. Although this is already quite an unusual thing to do, especially for a reasonably prominent person, that wasn't even close enough for Van Rossum. Van Rossum also tried to unearth evidence of child abuse in snuff networks, and it appears that he succeeded in that. His narrative of the whole adventure reads like a somewhat more hardcore version of the 1999 movie 8mm with Nicolas Cage. That's funny, I just mentioned that. At some point, Van Rossum took with him a well-known customer of many different sex shops in Belgium and just across the border in the Netherlands. In all these shops, he asked the owner for more exclusive material, obviously implying illegal, under-the-counter magazines, pictures, and videos. None of the sex shops in Antwerp and Brussels could or would help him with his request. However, in a few stores in Holsten Put, he was able to get PDF magazines, pictures, and videos. One of the things that Van Rossum learned was that the PDFs were active at the Dutch-Belgian border who kidnapped children, often for brief periods, to abuse them in front of the camera. Apparently, the Dutch and Belgian police in these areas have numerous dossiers in this kind of abuse, but in the rare cases that a perpetrator is caught, they are usually unable to prove that the abuser is in contact with the network. As numbers on missing and killed children are too unorganized to be very useful, this might very well be true. After buying some of the PDF goods, which include a painful grape, Van Rossum went back to one of the sex shops and asked for even more hardcore material for which he was willing to pay a hefty price. He hinted that he would like to see a girl being unalived on camera. Within a week, Van Rossum received what he had ordered for 5,000 euros, a price quite similar to later reports. The tape showed how the girl was brought into an empty room by a man with a hood over his head. She was handcuffed. The man cut the clothes from her body. She had scratches and bruises. He hit her in the face with his hand. And after that, she was thrown to the ground and, graped. When he was done with this, he threw the girl against the wall and began to beat and kick her over her whole body. When she slid to the ground, he went to stand with one foot on all her limbs and broke with both hands her arms and legs. Then for some time, he slowly worked on her with a knife and stabbed her 32 times in total, mainly in the chest and abdomen. Finally, he cut her throat, again slowly. After that, he slowly labored on the girl's body, the feet to her head, with great attention to the bloody details. It was perfectly clear the girl was already dead by then. The whole movie lasted 57 minutes and had not been edited. Having been supplied with this video still was not enough for Van Rossum. While receiving the video from the sex store owner, he had inquired if he could be present when such a snuff movie was shot. The store owner had called to his anonymous supplier with his request and informed Van Rossum that something might be arranged. But first he had to give his personal information. 2 days after having watched the video, Van Rossum was called by a representative of the organization that made these snuff movies and was invited to a cafe in Breda that same evening. When Van Rossum arrived, a well-dressed man of about 30 years old approached him. This person informed Van Rossum that he was to take him to a person who could help him. Van Rossum was brought to another cafe where a slightly younger but equally well-dressed man was waiting. This person informed him that they had looked at his personal and financial information and that this was satisfying. In 2 or 3 short conversations over the next 2 days, a deal was made which Van Rossum would be taken to an undisclosed location where he could basically do anything he wanted. I'm not going to say that. It could cost him 75,000 euros, 45,000 if you only want to watch. Of course, Van Rossum backed off at the llast moment, leaving the organizers of the event with the impression that he was afraid to get robbed by them. Van Rossum went to one of his other apartments at the sea for a few months to lay low, but before doing that, he deposited all of his evidence and additional information in the mailbox of the Court of Cassation in Breda. Van Rossum waited and waited in the following weeks, expecting to be contacted or at least reading something in the paper about a follow-up investigation. Nothing happened and nothing was reported. All right, well, that's interesting. The shop remained in existence, and after some time, Van Rossum sent one of his contacts to inquire yet again for special material. It turned out that there was a new owner who couldn't arrange any of this. After the contact explained that it had been possible in the past to get this special material at this location, the new owner explained that this is what had gotten the previous owner into trouble. So apparently nothing happened, but it never made the newspapers. Or apparently something happened, but it never made the newspapers. It is clear that Van Rossum did as in-depth research on the topic as possible, as he himself continually visited the red light districts of every major city he went to. He loved visiting prostitutes. Notwithstanding that he did an excellent job with his book, in late 1996, X2 raised concern about raised some question about how in-depth Van Rossum's research exactly has been. Damn, this is fucking... All right, we're almost there, guys. Sorry, this is long. I told you it was going to be long. Damn it. Where am I? Here we go. All right. No, this is part of X2's testimony. Parties with underage children in Eindhoven with Dolvi 8th century castle. Departure in convoy from Nock. The cars from German license plates followed with the little girls. Reception at the castle. A woman with a price of 2,000 Belgian francs per person. It is necessary to come with another person. It is necessary to take off clothes. A bikini might be accepted. Swimming pool, sauna, solar bench, cold buffet. There are rooms with doors to different themes, rooms with mirrors and cameras, rooms with several mattresses, room with obstetric tables, handcuffs, chains. Carol and X2 went 30 to 50 times this castle, seemingly average about once a month. Same little girls as those in Cromwell. Clients of the castle, Patrick Denise, Jan-Pierre Van Rossum, that's the Van Rossum, I believe. So I think the implication is that maybe, I don't know if she's implying that he may have actually been more involved than thought. I don't know. Baron de von Voisin, Jean-Paul Dumont, friend of Patrick Denise, Karine, another Karine, and Patricia, who work in the Palace of Justice in Bruxelles, Benoit Hubert, Claude Leroy, Brulé. The little girls disappeared when they were about 15 to 16 years for the orgies. In the summer of 88, when the oldest was taken to the sadomasochist room, she was never seen again. The little girls drank alcohol and came out of these parties completely numb. At least in the summary, it is not specified who the guest did and didn't abuse the underage girls. It's possible this was just one of Van Rossum's many paid sex explorations, and it is obvious that a one-time visit would be enough for anyone to remember him. But still, this testimony does raise some questions. However, many events in Van Rossum's life, which is characterized by bizarre situations and controversial statements, raise questions. In some cases, his statements reflect a huge egotism, but he often appears to be giving the simple truth, something which is not appreciated by everyone. An example relating to the global trafficking of children and women. Many other quotes have been taken up in this biography in the accused appendix. The Philippines are the target of boy-loving PDFs who can get here anything they want. 9 or 10-year-old boys are loudly offered by hotel managers or pimps on the streets. Rio has also become a PDF paradise where boys and girls are offered freely. In Bangkok, the lovers of hard stuff and extreme S&M or similar rushes can find what they are looking for. In clubs, there's a floor show in which stuff with animals and where girls are delivered to hotel rooms on an everything is loud basis. Violent stuff in which girls and boys are hurt, mutilated, or unalived is very normal there. The Eastern European countries formerly belonged to the USSR, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Bulgaria had become sex paradises in a very short period. In a time frame of several years, Budapest has become an immense red light area with hundreds of bars, cabarets, and brothels, and has it become the largest rotating platter of trade in women in Europe. In the streets of Moscow or St. Petersburg, thousands of heroin and vodka-addicted girls offer their services. Also with us, the bars, cabarets, and brothels are filled with Eastern European girls. Even though the public still thinks that sadistic child abuse is mainly a crime committed by a few unorganized psychopaths as Dutroux or Fourniret, in professional investigating circles, it is widely acknowledged that large, organized, sadistic child abuse networks exist right here in the West. Going through British newspaper archives provides one with numerous reports of PDFs trading pictures and videos amongst one another, sometimes on a very large scale. Senior executives of Scotland Yard, Europol, or Interpol have accepted the existence of large PDF networks a long time ago. All right, guys. Sorry, that was long as shit. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate everyone who joined me. Let me scroll. Let me see if there's anything worth addressing real quick. All right. Yeah, the cannibal Holocaust director had to prove that wasn't a real scene in court. I mean, he corrects himself as cannibal. Yeah, this is a gnarly morning dump. Yeah, this one went a little wild, guys. Well, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. If you do want to support what I'm doing, you can do it over there at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The highest or the lowest level is $2. That gives you early access to the episodes. For example, I just had on William Ramsey on last night. We talked about Aleister Crowley, kind of like a primer on him. Also, it allows you to be a talking head on on Already Dead, which is with me and Austin Picard, which we do on Tuesdays at 9:30. That allows you to come on to a video call portion during the call-in portion of the show. In the highest levels, my sponsors, I read them off every episode. I have my co-host of Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad. I also have at Abrogate D's, at ZOVERCK, at _Infinite Zeal, Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy podcast. You can follow him at Biblical Anarchy. Then Tim Tuttle, you can follow him at Jolly on Klebold. Then Will Bell, who has this delicious blueberry rabbit eye wine. And the big fan of the show, at Real Josh Elliott. And then Torrin May as well. I appreciate you guys helping me do what I do, supporting what I do. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose. You can make sure to tag me and stuff if you want me to cover them on these morning dumps. I believe next week I didn't do Wednesday this week because my week was a little bit thrown off, but I should be back next week to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe even a Monday, Tuesday, who knows, and for these morning dumps. So, pop in for those. Those will probably be at the normal time around 10 Eastern, 10 a.m. Eastern. I've been doing these around 9 recently, but with that, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Love you all. Toodles. Deuces.